Page 4 of the prayer book in English, Refuge in Bodhicitta. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of healing and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of healing and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and turn enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of healing and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sanje Jula Soge Chonamla Chansho Bado Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Jola Penche Sange Jubaraishu Sanje Jula Soge Chonamla Chansho Bado Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Jola Penche Sange Jubaraishu Sangye Joda Soge Chonamla Chancho Bado Dane Gyapsoshi Darge Jinso Gibe Sonamge Jola Venjira Sangye Druparaisho. Next page, Ye Dharma Mantra, Essence of Dependent Origination Mantra. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Etum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Jayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramanaye Swaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Etum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Jayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramanaye Swaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Etum Desham Tathagato Yavata Desham Jayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramanaye Swaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes is well taught by the great seer. The mic is there. Can you hear me? Those at the back, can you hear me? Virginia, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No? Okay, can you hear me? Better? Okay. Activated village was one session. It is Maria who asked to start us, right? Okay, Maria, wait till we get.
On s'était arrêté sur la nourriture.
Okay, so what we said.
Les causes de la souffrance.
The cause of suffering.
Yes. What we were talking was we are seeking the fearlessness. So I asked, what is the opposite of fearlessness? We said fear. What kind of fears? Then we give all the examples. The many good examples came. Fear, example of fear. Fear has two connotations. One, the gross fear, and the other, the subtle one. The gross one meaning, say for example, when somebody starts to tremble with fear. It is a very gross fear. What we are talking about is any form of fear, even fear, very subtle fear. For example, or whether or not the weather may become too cold tonight. It may go too cold. I may not be able to bear it. It's also a form of fear. So any form of discomfort. And I think the Pamela said the lack of freedom. Lack of freedom. And some say the dependency. Again, a lack of freedom. Okay, so the examples that you came up with, they are very good examples. And with this is very important. We have to know what exactly is fear. If you know fear, then the question is whether or not we can achieve the state of fearlessness. So, with this, we look for the example of the sound reclam. Sound reclam. So this sound reclam is suffering. In other words, when we talk about suffering that we talk about, this can best be understood, best be summarized or understood in the form of lack of freedom. Lack of freedom. Any form of suffering, any suffering that you may talk about, it is somehow in the form of lack of freedom or dependency. When don't you have the freedom? Is that you have to depend on something, and then when that factor is not coming, then you feel the problem. So for you not to have the problem depends on the other factor. So when the other factor is not there, then the problem is felt. So this is the dependency. So dependency, and to put it in a most vernacular sense, in the most ordinary people's understanding, it is the lack of freedom. And then to know precisely to know what is fearlessness. Fearlessness, no fear of samsara. In other words, technically we call it nirvana. And then what exactly is nirvana? That we have to study. So the 10 days, we have to know what exactly is in nirvana. And what is the opposite of nirvana? What's the opposite of nirvana? Samsara. Likewise, what exactly is samsara? We have to know. These two things are so important for us to know. And we'll take a little time. And besides Lucia, who else is living before? Bodhicittas is living on 11. 10. Okay. Anybody else who's living before 10? Audrey.
Sorry.
When?
Sunday. This Sunday.
Meaning?
Quel jour du mois?
Which date? Third. Oh. Audrey? On the 9th. Okay, so these are the questions, very serious questions. And so what exactly is nirvana? What exactly is samsara? These two are so important. And then if possible, what exactly is cognitive obscurations? This we're going to somehow we will come across this topic today. But what exactly is cognitive obscurations? To know these 3 points, we need more detailed studies of emptiness. Otherwise, I can't explain it here, but you will not get anything. You will not get anything out of this. It requires a little systematic study of the emptiness. Okay, it doesn't matter, so we'll try our best. By the way, except for Lucia, Audrey, 2 Audreys, and Tashidvajila, you already heard about all these points. You may not remember it, right? But okay, it's fine. You can listen to the recordings once more. But I think the 3 points we will cover before 9, hopefully. Before 9 we can cover. Okay. So but somebody should volunteer. Who is going to remind me of what exactly is samsara, what exactly is nirvana? Who's going to remind me? Raise your hands. Somebody should remind me. Okay, Daniela is going to remind me. Anyone else? Because if I forgot, Daniela forgot. Anybody forgets? Anybody for safety side? Is there somebody? Okay, here we have Dominic. Very good. Okay, now the second one, which is not the third one. What exactly is cognitive obscurations? Who's going to remind me? Huh? Okay, Patrick. Good. So any assistant to Patrick? Okay, here, your name? Cecile. Cecile. Okay. So Patrick and Cecile. So why I'm asking people to raise their hands is because if I don't explain this, I'm not responsible. That's the reason. Okay. So with this, what we're discussing is that the fears. Now, we do have with the sound of the clap, welcome to realize that the fear is the fear is what is what we learn with the example of the sound of the clap. Just as this sound of a clap comes into being by the combination of the two hands, the fear, all forms of fear, all forms of miseries, they arise, and miseries in the form of lack of freedom, which Pamela said, lack of freedom comes into being by the combination of two factors, external factors and internal factors. And and we are so good at always looking at external factors. Always looking at external factors. Any problem, if not 100%, 99.9% of a problem, somehow the problems we get, we look for the sources outside. External factors are responsible. Okay. For that matter, so those of us from last year, I hope we did this exercise. We are all going to do this exercise once more, but those of us who are from the last year, you don't give an answer. You just keep quiet and let those who are coming new today, let them give the answer, and then we'll see what is our, say, the natural instinct. Okay, so this involves a mathematical calculation. Okay, so this mathematical calculation is a very simple mathematical calculation. You don't have to worry. It's very simple numbers and only plus and minus. Okay, so now I will ask you to do this mathematical calculation. Are you ready? Okay, sit upright. Okay, you give me the answer only when I ask you what is the answer. Otherwise, all calculations must be done mentally. Right? Are you ready? 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 minus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2. What's the answer? 14. Amazing. Wow, you got it correctly. Amazing. Wonderful. Okay, now we're going to do it again. It's going to be as simple as what we did. It's not going to be more complicated. It's same symbols. Okay, let's do this again. Ready? Okay, again sit upright. Make sure that you are alert. Ready? Again, give an answer only when you are ready. Only when I ask you to give the answer. 2 plus 2 plus 2 minus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 minus 1 plus 2 plus 3 minus 1 plus 2 plus 3 minus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3. What's the answer? No?
We check the recording. We slow down the recording.
Okay, what's the answer? Okay, tell me. Those who were absent last year, tell me. Tell me, why were you successful in giving the answer to the first question correctly? Why you cannot give the answer to the second question correctly? Why? Those who were absent last year, tell me.
Parce qu'elle est...
Okay. What Amina is saying is that because I said it fast. How many agree with Amina? Raise hands. I said it fast. Okay. We all agree. I said it fast. That's true. I agree with you. I said it very fast. Your mind is also very slow. Right? I said it very fast. It's external factor. Your mind is very slow. It's internal factor. Both are responsible. But we are so addicted in blaming ourselves. You are fast. So this is a problem. This is a problem. We always blame outside. We always blame the external factors. We never think about the internal factors. External factors, you can blame. There's nothing wrong. There's no what is known as the intrinsic sin, intrinsic negativity, intrinsic non-virtues. There's no intrinsic negativity as such. The point is, if you blame outside and you get your fear dissolves, do it. The Buddha's teachings is very practical. There's no hard and fast rule to say that, oh, this is so bad, you blame outside, it's so bad. No, don't worry. If you blame outside and your misery comes to zero, do it. This is the point. Whereas blaming outside, why are we blaming outside? We're blaming outside so that we expect that the outside problem, outside factor should stop. And that I will always say slowly. And then you always get the answer correctly. This is what you're expecting. But the world is imperfect. Don't expect the world to say always slow to you. Right? Okay, so therefore, the point is that this is one simple example, how external factors are responsible, internal factors are responsible, yet our mind always look for the external factor. And there's nothing wrong in it to blame external factors. But the point is, your suffering should become zero. Your suffering should come to an end. But blaming the external, if your suffering comes to an end, that's fine, do it. But how many such external factors are there which are responsible for creating problem on you? How many external factors are there? Tell me. 1, 10, infinite external factors are there. So you blaming external factors, there's no point. For your own benefit, there's no point. Because in any ways you cannot get into the infinite external factors. And just think of that. Even the external factors, what we consider as positive external factors. Even the positive external factors become negative external factors. So A or non-A, both are external factors for us. For example, how many of you feel, okay, when you're by yourself, how many of you feel that I'm lonely? You feel lonely. And how many of you, when you're with some other people, you feel I have no privacy? Again, this is a problem. If you're by yourself, you say I'm so lonely. If you're with other people, you say I have no privacy. And then say someone who loves you. With you, there's always clash of ideas. You wish that other person goes away. When the person goes away, you miss the person. This is the dilemma of a mind. We always look for external factors. So therefore, what Audrey said was dependency. We are heavily dependent on external factors all the time. If this is our approach, if this is our thinking, we can never, ever think of achieving the state of fearlessness. We are forever going to be dependent on external factors. We are forever going to have lack of freedom. This is a problem. So now with this, what we learned is that for the great teacher, Bodhisattva Shantideva, 8th century AD, the great teacher, what he said is that if you want to walk barefooted around Rome or around, say, the front Paris, barefooted, and then invariably the pebbles and broken glasses, they will prick your feet. And then you say that, oh, please cover the entire Paris with leather so that I can walk peacefully. it is next to the impossibility. You cannot really possibly do that. So whereas what he said is that wiser would be to cover the 2 tiny feet with a leather. That suffices covering the entire earth with a leather. It's beautiful. Likewise, thinking of covering the covering the entire earth with a leather is like trying to deal with external factors. Covering the 2 tiny feet with the leather is dealing with the internal factors. So what is practical is dealing with the internal factors of the 2 hands. Internal factor, one hand you remove it, and then the external factors, however strong, however many, the sound stops. Sound of the misery starts. That's the purpose. So finally, the Buddhism has nothing to do with saying, okay, this is intrinsically bad, so forth. It's just do whatever you like that makes you happy. Do whatever you like that stops your miseries. And then that miseries, they arise from the causes. So knowing the causes, they are not randomly created. They are not randomly coming to you. So therefore, there are causes. We have to get rid of the causes. For that matter, we identify the causes. And the causes, we realize that there are 2. External factors and internal factors. External factors, historically speaking, say Moses. And before that, say Abraham. And then say the Krishna, the Gita's author. And then Ram. And then the Buddha, Mahavir, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, then the Bhaula, and then Zoroaster. All these great teachers came into this earth. None of these teachers made external factors 0. They only came on this earth to teach us how to get into the internal factors. None of them came to teach us how to get into the external factors. Okay, with this in mind, the wiser say, there are so many marks of distinguishing the ordinary people and the evolved beings. One of which is that those people who look for external factors all the time for your problems, these are the unwise and ordinary beings. Those people who look for the internal factors and look for ways means to get into the internal factors, these are the wise and the evolved beings. What is meant by wise? Wise means somebody who is able to do things which can actually give them the happiness, which can actually get rid of the suffering. And the unwise people are the ones who, in the process or in the pretext of getting rid of happiness, they attract more happiness. They get rid of suffering. They attract more suffering. In the process of acquiring happiness, they push the happiness. This is the mark of the unwise and the ordinary beings. So this is the distinction. Now, it's not that, okay, some people are born as ordinary, some people are born as the evolved. No, this is not the point. Anyone can be evolved. Anyone can be wise. For that, we need the light of the wisdom. To know these things. To know what the Buddha taught. Finally, that the problems which we shun, they come into being by the combination of external factors and internal factors. And that external factors is innumerable number. Even the conducive external factors, they can become the non-conducive factors. Whereas the internal factors is so less in number. And trying to tackle the internal factors, this is the approach of the wise people. So this is one very important part. Okay. So having come to this point, what would be your next question to me? What I said thus far is that we have this seed of perfection within us. Fearlessness and the infinite happiness. We have that within us in the form of seeds. But why don't we see them? It's because of because of 2 factors, external and internal factors. And all these miseries, to know this true nature inside, the true nature, the seed of perfection, of fearlessness and infinite happiness, which we were looking for, say, what's the opposite of this? Opposite of the fearlessness. We talked about the fears and how the fear arises. We come to realize that it is through the two factors. Of the two factors, what is our tendency? Look for the external factors or the internal factors. We come to realize that we look for the external factors. And by looking for external factors, this is extremely unwise. We will never get to anywhere to get rid of all our fears. So wisely people will look for the internal factors. Okay, this is where we came to the point where we came to. So if this is where we have come to this point, tell me what would be the next question to me. Anybody, very quick.
How do we change?
Huh?
How do we change? How do we?
Are we changed or can we change? What is your question?
How do we change?
Okay.
How do we change our inside?
Okay. How do we change our inside? Very good. Anybody else? What questions you might have?
Look for the causes of suffering. The cause of the suffering.
Okay, what are the causes of the suffering? Very good. Anybody else? Okay, I have given you the clue. The clue is that what we have discovered, what we learned is about the Buddha nature. Buddha nature meaning, we don't start to say that there's a treasure inside. This is how we did not start. How we started was that day when we are born, what is within us? We have some aspiration. We cry. Cry means it symbolizes the emotional state inside. What emotional state? Aspiration for something. Aspiration that I should not be hungry. I should not be thirsty. I should not have pain. This aspiration. So this aspiration, if you try to explore this more deeply, this aspiration wants to get rid of the suffering. This aspiration wants to have the maximum happiness. From this, what we learned was that everyone on this earth, we are seeking two things. One, seek to shun all the miseries. Other, seek to have the maximum happiness. This is what we agreed upon. Then, for this, what we said is that with example, we said that this is something doable. We asked whether it's doable, whether it's achievable. Charles Darwin said, no, it's not achievable. Whereas the Buddha said, yes, it's achievable. To say no, it is achievable is very easy. But you will not grow. You will not think. To say yes is not easy. For that you have to think, how yes? Then the Buddha went into the psychology, deeper psychology. For that, what we learned is with example, like the river sand, however dirty river sand is, the true nature of the river sand is very pure. Likewise, however dirty our mind is, the true nature of mind is so pure. This is what we learned. If our mind is so pure, how do we know? Rationally. This example is fine, but rationally, how do we know that our mind is so pure? Then we talked about this sound of a clamp. What we seek is the fearlessness. Opposite of fearlessness is the fear. How does the fear arise? Through two factors. Then what we said is that external factors, try your best to get into the external factors, but don't expect that we can eradicate external factors completely. Try your best. When you're hungry, don't say that it's internal factor, so you don't eat food. No, don't do that. Eat food. If you feel cold, don't say that, oh, it's just internal factor of the two hands. If I remove the internal factor, then however cold it is, it's no problem. Then you freeze to death. The point is that we should be very realistic. To remove the internal factor is not that easy. So, tackle the external factors to the best you can. But what we are saying is that external factors in terms of the number, it is impossible that we can get rid of all the external factors completely. But meanwhile, do your best to get rid of the external factors. Be very realistic. Meanwhile, long-term plan, short-term plan. Short-term plan, get rid of the external factors to the best you can. Long-term plan, get rid of the internal factors. This is what we said. So, understanding till this point, now internal factors should be gone right off. This is what I said. But on that basis, what is your question? Next question to me. Anybody? Yes.
Is it possible to get rid of the internal factor?
Is it possible to get into the internal factors? Good question. Anybody else? Anybody else? Is it possible to get into the internal factors?
If it's possible, how do I? If it's possible, how can I get rid of?
If the answer is yes, it is possible, then how? Yes, Tashila?
Because our nature, like our Buddha's nature of mind and our nature of mind is the same. So there's the potential to remove all these emotions.
This is the question is that what I said is okay. We came to the point that to get the fearlessness, we have to get into the fear. To get into the fear, we have to know how the fear arises. Fear arises through two factors: external factor, internal factors, and you have to get rid of one of these two. External factor we cannot possibly get rid of, but short term, yes. Short term, try your best to get rid of the external factors. Long term, think of getting rid of the internal factors. Okay, this is what we said. Now, having said this, what would be your next question pertaining to this link?
Comment faire pour s'en débarrasser? Comment apprendre à s'en débarrasser? Oui, vas-y.
How do we get rid of those internal factors?
How do we get rid of the internal factors? Can we get rid of the internal factors? If yes, how can we get rid of the internal factors?
What are there and what are their causes?
Okay, good. So now the and Sophia's imprint of the last teaching coming up. Okay. So the question is, what are the internal factors? Before you say how to get rid of them, right? What are the internal factors? Once you identify them, how to get rid of them? Okay, two questions, right? Thank you, Sophia. Okay, two questions. What are the internal factors? And how to get rid of them? Two. Okay, good question. With this, what we need to learn is that what I said earlier is that we have what do we seek? We seek two things. What are they? Tell me. Raise your hands. Yes.
Fearlessness.
Fearlessness and
Happiness.
don't just say happy. You already have happiness. Infinite happiness, right? Okay. What do we seek is fearlessness. We don't have the fearlessness. We don't have the infinite happiness. Yet these two are the things that we are seeking. Okay. So what I said is that we already have these two. We already have these two, like the gold mixed with the soil. When you have the gold mixed with the soil, you will not believe that you have a gold. But the gold experts know that there's a gold within you. And they'll prove, the way Zofana said, remove the soil and the gold inside will start to glow. Likewise, remove the internal factors. Remove the internal factors, then the gold inside, the Buddha nature, will start to glow. So the question is, what are the internal factors? Once you identify what the internal factors are, the question is how to get rid of them. This is the point. Okay, now what we said is that the purity, River Sen, the purity existed. We said that when the River Sen is dirty, it's not clean to drink. But subjecting the River Sen to purification process, then the purity comes out. This purity existed with River Sen since when?
Toujours. Toujours.
Maria?
Toujours. Elle a tout. Depuis toujours.
Since beginning time.
Since okay, I don't know about previous times, but for sure since the beginning of the River Sen. Right? Before River Sen, it may not be River Sen. Right? River Sen may be some snow.
Non, pas l'eau de la Seine. Depuis toujours, l'eau a toujours été pure.
Since the beginning, water has always been pure.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So since it has been the water, otherwise it's not that it has been river sand all the time. It has been the water all the time. It's not necessary. Initially, it may be hydrogen, a part of some other hydrochloric acid, and oxygen. Maybe the organic objects, not water, right? And then somehow they come together. It becomes H2O, and then it becomes water, and then it becomes river sand. Okay, so what I'm saying is that river sand, the purity which we discovered, remove the dirt, the purity comes out. This purity is brought from nowhere. It existed right within the river sand, dirty river sand. The true nature of the river sand is pure. So this true nature of the river sand, the purity is so pure. That purity is the nature, the true nature of the river sand. Since when? Since the river sand first came into being. Where the river sand is, the purity is always there. Do you agree with me? Okay. If you agree with me with this is an extremely precious teaching of the Buddha. There you will come to discover your potential. That deep inside my mind, however defiled my mind is, the true nature of mind is the Buddha's mind. The true nature of mind is infinite compassion, infinite wisdom, and infinite power. So this is what my mind is. So at the moment, instead of compassion, anger easily erupts. Instead of wisdom, full of ignorance. Instead of power, we are so powerless. This is what my mind is at the moment. But this is not my true nature. This is not your true nature. Your true nature, whoever you are, whether you're a boy or girl, whether you are educated or uneducated, whether you're French, non-French, whether you're Buddhist, non-Buddhist, it doesn't matter. Everybody, the true nature of mind, has this perfection of the professional love, professional knowledge, and professional power. This is what your true nature of mind is. Okay. Now, if this is what your true nature is, like the river sand, the true nature of the river sand is so pure, likewise, if my mind has such quality, if these two qualities become manifest, true nature of my mind becomes manifest, then I have the infinite happiness and the infinite and the fearlessness. I'll have this. But on the contrary, I don't have these two now. But you have these two in the form of seeds. But you don't feel it. Why you don't feel this? First, the fearlessness. You have the fearlessness inside. Total fearlessness. You have it. But why don't we feel it yet? It's because something is blocking that. Something is blocking this. Something is blocking this fearlessness coming from manifesting. So what blocks? We call it what blocks? What blocks? What obstructs? What obstructs us from this the fearlessness from coming out? That obstruction, we call it afflictive obscurations. That mental obscuration, something which is within your mind that blocks us from experiencing the fearlessness. That obscuration, mental defilement, which blocks us from experiencing this fearlessness is technically known as afflictive obscurations. So we need to have the technical terms also. This is known as the afflictive obscurations, number one. Then on the other hand, we also have the capacity to experience infinite happiness. But we don't experience it now. The goal is there, but the goal, very definition of the goal, very nature of the goal is to glow. But the goal is there, why it is not glowing if the goal is there? Because that is obscured by the glow, is obscured by the soil, the mixture. Likewise, I have the state of the infinite happiness. Why I'm not experiencing that is because this true nature of the infinite happiness, it is mixed with some obscurations, some mental defilements. These mental defilements, which are responsible for obstructing the infinite happiness, is known as cognitive obscurations. Okay, now if you remove this cognitive obscuration, you experience the infinite happiness. That infinite happiness, in a technical sense, it is Buddhahood, full awakening, Buddhahood. And the fearlessness if the mental defilements which blocks us from having this fearlessness come out, if these obstructions are removed, then the fearlessness comes out. This fearlessness, technically, it is known as nirvana. So, in Buddhism, we talk about the nirvana and Buddhahood. This is in a very technical sense, in a Buddhistic sense, we can talk about nirvana and Buddhahood. In a very secular sense, we can talk about the fearlessness and infinite happiness. If you talk about fearlessness, infinite happiness, everybody will agree with you. Everybody will join you in your conversation. The moment you say Buddhahood, nirvana, then only the Buddhists will come to you. Only those people who claim themselves as Buddhists will take interest, others will not take interest. But the fact is, these are just the technical jargons, technical vocabularies. Yes, over there.
What's the difference? Could you explain again the difference between afflicted obscurations and cognitive?
Say it again.
Could you explain the difference between afflictive obscurations and cognitive?
Your name?
Laura?
Okay, Laura. Thank you. You want me to run faster? If I run faster, many will not be able to catch up. Then you are responsible. Okay, I'm bound to explain all these.
I can wait until later.
Okay. So now we see that from this what we see is that we have two goals. One is the fearlessness, technically referred to as the nirvana, and the infinite happiness, technically referred to as the Buddhahood. Don't forget it, right? Some people, they say that, okay, yeah, I try to talk about Buddhism to my friends. I really feel compassion towards them. I talk about Buddhism. They feel so bored to hear about Buddhahood, nirvana. So I say that, who told you to talk about Buddhahood and nirvana? Right? Talk something which makes sense to them. Buddhahood and nirvana, in the first place, they are not receptive to what, they are not ready to listen to these two things. So you have to talk about fearlessness. You have to talk about infinite happiness. They'll be so happy to hear these two words. Right? So this is how Buddhism actually is not a Buddhism, it's very secularism. It's very secular in nature. Anybody, the concept, if you're able to convey in a nice way, everybody, there's no one who will not accept this concept. The fact that we are all just equal in wanting to shun the miseries, in order to we want to shun fears of life, and we want to have the maximum happiness. We are all same. Whether Buddhists, Muslims, Jains, Christians, Jews, it doesn't matter. Non-believers. Everybody aspires to get into suffering and to have the maximum happiness. This is the reality. So it's how you articulate. If you don't know how to articulate well, then you can easily put off people very easily. Okay. So these are the two things. Now from this what we learn is that our mind, the true nature of the mind is so pure, with the purity, the result that we are intended to experience is the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. The fearlessness is the different way of putting nirvana, and the infinite happiness is a different way of putting the Buddhahood. Now these two things are there within us in the form of seed. Oftentimes, some of the great teachers, they say that you are a Buddha. You are already a Buddha. Some teachers, they say that you are already a Buddha. Right? But for us to say that you are already a Buddha, there's complication. Right? Then the Buddha, this Buddha is very hungry, this Buddha is very angry. This is the connotation of the conventional world. But what they mean is, you have the seed of the Buddhahood inside. This is the connotation. Okay. Okay. Jacques?
Je voudrais lui demander si je vais, si je vais à la pureté primordiale. Tout le monde a cette pureté primordiale comme l'eau, mais ça se pollue petit à petit. C'est comme nous, si on a l'état de Bouddha, mais on ne se rend pas compte, et à part des causes de cognitif, on se pollue de plus en plus, et là on se rend compte que c'est trop sale. Ça vient des causes conscientes. Et si on remonte à la source, on a cette nature de Bouddha, mais si on ne se rend pas compte de cette nature de Bouddha, on n'est pas un éveillé. Donc comment faire la différence maintenant qu'on a purifié, on devient Bouddha. Mais on a toujours été Bouddha, c'est ça? C'est-à-dire qu'on a toujours été Bouddha nous-mêmes. Et par le processus de pollution, comme la nature, ça se pollue et quand on se rend compte, c'est un peu trop tard que c'est déjà trop pollué. Donc cette nature-là, on aurait dû se désintoxiquer, dépolluer petit à petit tout le temps pour toujours rester pur.
So the question is that we are fundamentally pure. Still, our mental defilements are so strong that it seems that it could be too late, and it would be better to every day try our best to get rid of the defilements instead of trying to get rid of all the defilements in one time.
Okay, so these will come later. So now we are going again, Laura, right?
Yes.
Laura and Shah, they want me to run fast. Alright, okay, let's be a little patient. So if you have questions pertaining to what I said thus far, clarification required, that's fine, you can raise. Otherwise, those questions, we are bound to do all these. The next 10 days we have all these for what Shah asked. Right? Okay. So those questions which you think that, okay, this will, for sure, it's going to be covered the next few days, then keep them with you, but don't forget, keep them with you. And then in case, particularly towards the day 5, day 6, day 7, if still these questions are not covered, then you bring this up in the class, right? Okay. Now what we are talking about is that, okay, these two things, fearlessness, technically known as Nirvana, infinite happiness, technically known as Buddhahood. Okay, these two things are something achievable. If achievable, why we are not seeing this within us? Because something is blocking us. Gold, when mixed with the soil, while the nature of the gold is to glow, it is not glowing. Why? Because there is the soil there. So for that, we have to identify what that soil is. What that soil is, we have to identify this and remove the soil. Then the gold inside will start to glow. Likewise, we have to identify what the defilements are, which we refer to as the internal factors. Identify them and then resort to ways and means to get rid of them. Then the goal inside, the Buddha nature inside, the fearlessness and the infinite happiness will start to glow. Okay, so what we said is that the defilement which blocks us from achieving nirvana is known as afflictive obscurations, and the mental defilements which block us from achieving infinite happiness or Buddhahood is known as cognitive obscurations. Okay, tell me. The nirvana is fearlessness for yourself. Infinite happiness or the Buddhahood is where this fearlessness not only for yourself but to be having the potential to give to all other sentient beings. Okay, so for your clue for you is if you get rid of the afflictive obscurations, it is not necessary that you can get rid of the cognitive obscurations. To get rid of the cognitive obscurations, you must get rid of the afflictive obscurations. Keep this in mind. Having said this, I'll have to give you some examples. What is afflictive obscurations and what is cognitive obscurations? Okay, let's think about garlic. And I'm sure some of you may not be eating garlic, like Dominic. Eating garlic, not garlic. Taste garlic. Okay. Say, let's say some people they don't take garlic, let's say, and then somebody smashes garlic in your mouth. And then you said, okay, somebody smashed garlic in my mouth, and then the person owned up and said, I'm very sorry, and let's say the person went to clean the garlic, remove the garlic, salt the garlic, wash it with water so well. Okay, now tell me, is there any garlic inside? Is there any solid garlic? No. No solid garlic, you try to, with your fingers just to get, and you will not find even a trace of garlic. Smell it, it still smells garlic. Likewise, the mental defilements, one is like the solid garlic, and the other is like the smell of the garlic. Afflictive obscurations are these solid garlic like mental defilements, and the cognitive obscuration is the subtle smell like the garlic smell like mental defilements. Two. One is very subtle, one is very gross. The gross one is known as afflictive obscurations, and the subtle one is known as cognitive obscurations. Okay. Now, on the so what are these afflictive obscurations? How can I know? How can I know what kind of afflictive obscurations I have? How do I know there's afflictive obscurations? To identify the afflictive obscurations is relatively easier as compared to identifying the cognitive obscurations. Whose job is to remind me of the identifying the cognitive obscurations? Whose job is that? Patrick, an assistant? Okay, Cecile. Okay, so it is your job, because to identify the afflictive obscurations, it is relatively easier as compared to identifying the cognitive obscurations. To speak about cognitive obscuration at this point, to identify exactly what is cognitive obscuration, it is very difficult. I cannot do it now. We have to do it only after discussing about emptiness. So it may come, we may do that on the 5th day or 6th day or 7th day. So two of you should be watchful of that. Okay. Whereas the afflictive obscurations, to a great extent we can do it now, even now, is not a big problem. For that matter, we need to understand what is known as the stanza from Arya Nagarjuna's text, Mula Madhyamika Karika, or the fundamental wisdom of the middle way. This text is so precious, eventually we have to study this text. The fundamental wisdom of the middle way. This is a text. In Sanskrit, it is Mul Madhyamika Karika. Fundamental wisdom of the middle way. In Tibetan, Sawa Sherab. Okay. So there, Arya Nagarjuna said one stanza which is extremely great summary of the Buddha's teachings. What he said was that a ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from inappropriate attention, which in turn arises from elaborations of self-grasping ignorance. Elaboration ceases through the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, let me say this again. Okay, English page 112. English page 112, stanza 5. Okay, English, it doesn't matter. The selected chapters from Arya Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamika Karika, chapter 18. Is there? Chapter 18. Okay, Audrey, which page? Audrey. Huh? Okay, chapter 18, stanza 5. Ceasing of actions and afflictions leads to nirvana. Actions and afflictions arise from conceptual thought. This arises from mental elaboration. Elaboration ceases through emptiness. This is extremely important stanza. If you know this single stanza well, you know the whole framework, the foundation, the framework of the Buddha's teachings. And this stanza is, in Tibetan it is This is the Tibetan version. And if you know the stanza, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, oftentimes his teachings begin with this stanza. So if you know the stanza, you will really reap the maximum benefit of the teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Okay, so this stanza, to know the stanza, and if possible, also try to not to miss the links. How I'm taking you from one point to the next, the transition. From one point to the next, the transition. You don't forget these transitions. Okay, now I'm taking this point pertaining to identifying the afflictive obscurations. Okay, for that matter, we have to understand the stanza, we need to know the 5 points. The first one says, ceasing of actions and afflictions leads to nirvana. What's the opposite of nirvana? Samsara. Okay, point number 1 is samsara. Point number 1 is samsara. And what exactly is samsara? Who's going to remind me? What exactly is samsara? Whose job? Okay, the Dominic and Dominic's assistant. Okay, there. Oh no. Lucy, how come they're going to be Dominic's assistant? Dominic's assistant is not easy. You have to stay for till 13. Okay, who was Dominic's assistant? Huh?
Jono.
Oh, poor Patrick, don't give 2 responsibilities. He already has another responsibility. Huh? Tashira, yeah, Tashira. Huh? No.
Already resigned.
Okay, so there must be somebody to help, somebody to assist. Okay, Laura. Okay, Laura will help. Laura, are you going to stay here till 13? Okay, so we have 2 of you. To remind me what? What exactly is samsara, right? So don't wait till 13. This should happen like, say, day 2, day 3. Okay.
I can tell you now.
Sorry?
I can tell you now.
If now, then I would not ask you to remind me. Okay, so let's say, number 1 is samsara. Then it says, ceasing of actions and afflictions. Actions or karmas. Karmas, in Sanskrit, karma means actions. Physical, verbal, mental actions. So this samsara arises from actions, contaminated actions or contaminated karmas. Number 2. And contaminated karmas arise from gross afflictions. Number 3. Gross afflictions. Ceasing of actions, afflictions leads to nirvana. Okay, 3 points done. Then these afflictions arise from, action and afflictions arise from conceptual thought. Conceptual thought, technically, it is known as inappropriate attention. Number 3. No, number 4. Inappropriate attention. This inappropriate attention arises from mental elaboration. Number 5. Mental elaboration. Technically, it is known as elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. We need to know these 5 points. Okay, let me do this again, and then you're going to tell me. Number 1 is suffering. This is the resultant state. Number 1, suffering or the samsara. There is a resultant state, and the remaining 4 are the causal states. Causal factors give rise to the samsara. The cause of factors, samsara is given rise to by the contaminated actions. Karma. Contaminated actions are given rise to by gross afflictions. Number 2. Gross afflictions are given rise to by inappropriate attention. Number 4. Inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention arises from, number 5, elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. Elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. These 5 points must be on our fingertips. Okay. Tell me, what's point number 1? Samsara, or the miseries. And samsara, in a loose sense, what is samsara? It's the loss of freedom. Loss of freedom is samsara. In a loose sense. And technically, very precisely, we have to study a little more later on, after being introduced to emptiness. Okay, samsara in a loose sense is loss of freedom is samsara. Okay. And what's the immediate cause of samsara? Yes, karmas, or to be technically correct, it should be contaminated karma or contaminated actions. Because karma, there are 2, contaminated karmas and uncontaminated karmas. Buddhas have uncontaminated karmas, Arya beings have uncontaminated karmas. Uncontaminated karmas will not give rise to samsara. Only the contaminated karmas. So either you say contaminated karmas or contaminated actions. What is the immediate cause of the contaminated actions? Gross afflictions. Number 3. What is the immediate cause of the afflictions? Gross afflictions? Inappropriate attention. What is the immediate cause of the inappropriate attention? Self-grasping ignorance, or the elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. So we can just simply put it as, say, self-grasping ignorance. In order to comply with the stanza, we say the elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. Okay. Now our job is to identify each one of these 5 points. What's the first one? Samsara. Samsara, I said, in a loose sense. In loose sense, it is loss of freedom. Loss of freedom. Right? Don't think of samsara as somewhere outside the air. Don't think of samsara as outside the air. The fact that you lose your freedom, that is samsara. Right? Okay. What's next? Contaminated karmas. Not just karma, contaminated karmas or the contaminated actions. Okay. To know the remaining points, to know the remaining 4 points, I'd like to give an example which is so important. I'd like to give you an example. Okay. Let's say that okay, Mike, may I borrow your mobile? May I borrow your mobile?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget to take it back. Okay.
Somebody has to remind me.
Okay. Rashid Dujala, Amina, 2 of you are in Canada still. And Luzia, you are in Indonesia. And the Isabel and Dominic are in Belgium. Anyone else from anywhere else?
Minnesota.
Okay, the Camila,
Is that
Pamela.
Is that Zini? Sorry, US.
Okay, the Pamela from USA.
Yeah.
And
Canada. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and
USA.
you and?
No one else.
Okay, so let's say that you are in your respective homes and you're dreaming of being in Kalachakra Center. You're dreaming of being in Kalachakra Center, attending a class. In the class, the person picks up something. You're dreaming. This is a dream mobile. This is a dream mobile. You look at it, you see it as a real mobile. Wow, he's holding up a real mobile. You're getting it? Okay. Seeing this dream mobile as a real mobile, is this mistaken mind, or is this distorted mind, or this valid mind? Seeing this dream mobile as a real mobile, is that a distorted mind or a valid mind? Distorted mind, very good, number one. Then you look at it very carefully, and you see that this is iPhone X. It's actually not iPhone X, it's just a dream mobile. And you see it as iPhone X. So you exaggerate the quality of the mobile, quality of the dream mobile. iPhone X. Exaggeration of this quality, this dream mobile as an iPhone X, is this a valid mind or a distorted mind? Distorted mind, number two. Then you think that, oh, Geshe is so kind. He will exchange his mobile with mine, which is like 20 euro mobile, right? 20 euro mobile with his iPhone X. He will, Geshe, would you be kind enough to exchange my mobile with yours? The moment you say this, your friend sitting next to you said that I said it first. I said it first, right? Then what happened? Two of you will have a fist fight. Tell me. First, you see this dream mobile as real, number one. Then you look at it very carefully, you see not only mobile, it's iPhone X. You see the dream mobile as iPhone X, number two. Then you feel attached to this. And your competitor, then you ask, can I exchange this mobile with mine? Then your competitor says, no, I said it already. Your anger towards your competitor. Attachment to the mobile, anger towards your competitor. Next is action, fist fight. Action. With a fist fight, both of you end up in prison, which is samsara. Okay, tell me. What made you end up in prison? What made you end up in prison? Hey.
Ignorance.
Distorted view.
Ignorance.
Huh?
Ignorance.
You're not in.
Ignorance. Ignorance. Okay. Police will come. Hey, who has ignorance? I will arrest you. Is this the Paris police? Or who has ignorance? I will arrest you. No. Police will never arrest you simply because of ignorance. Why did the police arrest you and put you into jail? Bus? Because of the fist fight, action. You're getting it? Immediate cause of being in the prison is not because of ignorance. Otherwise, everybody will end up in prison. Even the police will also end up in prison. Okay. So why we end up in prison is not because of ignorance. Not because of attachment, not because of anger. Even if you have anger, if you hold it, if you don't manifest action, then no police can arrest you. Right? When you manifest anger into action, when you manifest the attachment into action, then the police will arrest you. Corruption, killing, stealing, so forth. Then the police will arrest you. So the actions are the immediate cause of being in the prison. Now what made you have fist fight? Hey, what made you fist fight? Because of attachment to the mobile and over the competition, anger towards the competitor. Right? The gross afflictions. What made you have attachment? What made you have this attachment to the mobile? Huh? Exaggeration what? Huh? Huh? Lucia? Yes? The quality of the mobile is not just a mobile. It's not just 20 euros mobile. By the way, do you get mobile for 20 euros? I don't know. You get not. Audrey, tell me.
Expensive mobile.
Do you get the mobile for 20 euros? Yes.
Second hand.
Okay, some yes. Okay, so this is not 20 euro mobile, it's iPhone X. iPhone X, you exaggerate the quality. What made you see this iPhone X is a dream mobile? No, it's a real mobile. Okay, now tell me. Say, first, everything, all this episode started from where? Episode of ending up in prison, right? Then say, your poor mother comes to you, or your poor dad comes to you in the prison. Why did you end up in prison? You went to Kalachakra, not to go into prison. You went to Kalachakra Center to learn something, right? To be more compassionate, to be more... You used to be so kind. What happened? Why did you end up in prison? Then what did you say? Prison? Why did you end up in prison? Because I had a physical fight. Why did you have a physical fight? Because I was so angry towards that person. Why did you have anger towards that person? Because he was a competitor. I felt, I like this mobile, right? Why do you like this mobile? This iPhone X. Why? It is not at all iPhone X, it's a dream mobile. No, it's a real mobile. You're getting it? Tell me, all these episodes of the problem, chain of problem, started from what? What is the initial trigger? Huh? Okay, raise your hands. What is the initial trigger? Okay, Martin? Huh? Me? How me? A jealousy. Okay, what is the initial trigger?
Ignorance.
Huh?
Ignorance.
Ignorance. Which ignorance? Huh? Okay, so all of us just stick to the example that I gave. Right? Stick to the example. For example, I mentioned 5 points. Of the 5 points, what is the final point? Which is the initial trigger? And Sophia?
To see the mobile as existing and not a dream mobile.
To see
The mobile as it exists in itself and not as a dream mobile.
to see the dream mobile as a real mobile. To see the dream mobile existing as a real mobile. To see the dream mobile as existing as a real mobile, or to see the dream mobile as real mobile. This is what triggers all the chain of problems. If you see the dream mobile as a dream mobile, you will not exaggerate that as an iPhone X. If you don't exaggerate that as iPhone X, you will not have attachment to that. If you don't have attachment to that, the competitor, you will not feel angry. If you not have anger towards that person, you will not fight. If you don't fight, why should you have to end up in prison? You're getting all this chain of problems started, triggered by the initial misperception of the object. Misperceiving the dream object as the real object. This is the problem. You're getting it? Okay. From this, now I'm going to explain a little clearly as to each of these 5 points. What is the initial point? What is the initial trigger of all these problems? Huh? Misconceiving the dream mobile as the real mobile. Okay, so this is known as, in the text, stanza 5 which we read, this is the referred to as the elaboration. What is said here as elaboration is our misconception, or the misconception of the dream mobile as the real mobile, or in other words, misconception of the object. Misconception of the object is the elaboration, is what is referred to as elaboration in the text. Okay, what is number 2? What is number 2? Then what we said is the inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention means, now you have already exaggerated the object. You have already exaggerated the object, that the dream mobile to be mobile. Then you exaggerate the quality of the object. You exaggerate the characteristic of the object. Quality of the object. That this is not only mobile, it's iPhone X. You exaggerate the quality. Right? Okay, so we have the mobile as to the object or the characterized, and the quality of the mobile, iPhone X, as the characteristic of the mobile. So the first ignorance, the first trigger First trigger is the ignorance which misconceives the object to be characterized. Okay, let me say this again. The first ignorance is the ignorance which misconceives the object to be characterized, the object. Then the second one referred to as the conceptual thought. Conceptual thought or the inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention is the one which misconceives the characteristic of the object. Number two is the misconception of the characteristic of the object. The first one is the characterized, misconceiving the characterized. Number two is misconceiving the characteristic of the object. Then number three is the attachment and anger. That is the gross afflictions. Gross afflictions. Then number four is the fist fight, which is contaminated actions. Contaminated karmas or contaminated actions, number four. Then contaminated karmas and you are in prison, which is samsara. Okay, so what we do is that we go to end for 10 minutes, then we'll have to keep it half an hour. Yeah. Okay, so these 5 points, so important. From this we see that all our problems, sickness, aging, death, and the bad habits, all forms of problems that we have, they all arise from the contaminated karmas. Don't forget it. Contaminated karmas, they arise from gross afflictions. Gross afflictions arise from inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention arises from elaboration or self-grasping ignorance. Okay, this we have to know. If possible, let us not forget this, if possible, on a daily life, whenever some agitation arises, whenever unhappiness arises, whenever attachment arises, whenever fear arises, whenever your mind becomes a little depressed, think of how these 5 things are operating within your mind stream, and then make it so alive in your life. And then if that happens, then you will see that you will learn how to tackle your own problems. You can be your own therapy. You can be your own therapist. Right? So, this is so important. It's so important to know how the mind works. Okay. So with this, what we learned is that afflictive obscurations that we are talking about, which stop you from achieving the fearlessness or nirvana. So this afflictive obscurations is nothing but, look at these. It says suffering, the first point of the 5 points, the suffering is the resultant state, keep that aside. What is next? Contaminated karmas. Okay, now I'm explaining to you as to the classifications of afflictive obscurations, the divisions of afflictive obscurations. Number 1 is the contaminated karmas, number 1. Contaminated karmas, number 1. Number 2, what is the contaminated karmas given rise to by? Gross afflictions. Gross afflictions. Then gross afflictions given rise to by inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention given rise to by self-grasping ignorance. These 3 things combined together is referred to as afflictions.
You can repeat, please.
Okay, of the 5 points, the first one is samsara. Keep that aside. This is the resultant state. Then the contaminated karmas. Then the gross contaminated karmas is 1. Then the gross afflictions, inappropriate attention, self-grasping ignorance. Of the 5 points, the initial 3 points, these 3 come together, brought together, is referred to as the afflictions. In other words, if somebody asks you what constitutes afflictive obscurations, you can say contaminated karmas, afflictions, and the active seeds of the first two. If somebody asks you what constitutes afflictive obscurations, you have to say contaminated karmas, afflictions, and the active seeds of the first two. First two meaning active seeds of the contaminated karmas, active seeds of the afflictions. You may be wondering what is afflictive seed, what is active seeds? Okay, active seeds means, okay, let's say, how many of you angry now for not the breaking out for tea break?
Moi, parce que je ne trouve pas dans mon livre ce dont on parle. Donc, je suis en colère.
C'est mieux traduit page 205.
205.
First translation is in
Okay. Okay. So now, how many of you are angry now? Nobody's angry. Nobody's angry. Okay. But after the retreat, you go back home, you might have a difficult neighbor, or you might have a difficult boss, and again the anger arises. So this anger arose from where? When you were in Kalachakra Center, you were so peaceful, you were so happy, laughing all the time, right? This anger came from where? Okay, this anger, while we are in Kalachakra Center, we do not have the manifest anger, but the anger was in the form of seed. Anger, now, although we don't have the manifest anger, but we have the anger in the form of a seed. Active seed. Active seed meaning the seed, when the conducive factors come together, then the seed will germinate into a proper anger or manifest anger. That is known as the active seeds. Okay, so tell me, what constitutes afflictive obscurations? In other words, what are the classifications of afflictive obscurations? Quick.
The elaboration of self-grasping ignorance.
Non local.
Contaminated karmas, very good. Afflictions.
Affliction. Inattention.
And the active seeds of the two. Okay, these three things. Don't forget it. This is very important. These three things, as long as we have these three things, we will never have the stable experience of fearlessness. We will never have nirvana. As long as we have these three things within us, we will never have nirvana, we will not have the fearlessness. In a secular term, fearlessness. In a technical term, nirvana. Freedom from the fears of life. Okay, this is very important. Then the next part is what constitutes the cognitive obscurations. What constitutes cognitive obscurations? It is the inactive seeds. Inactive seeds of the afflictive obscurations. Inactive seeds of the afflictive obscurations. For example, like the smell of the garlic. The smell of the garlic will never germinate into a proper garlic. Do you agree with me? The smell of garlic will never germinate into, is inactive. It's not active to give rise to the garlic anymore. So that is the inactive seed of the afflictive obscuration, is known as the cognitive obscurations. And precisely what is that? That we will discuss later on. Okay. Okay, now what we do is that we will have half an hour tea break, then we'll come back for the next class. Just within half an hour, do you think something can be done? Huh?
A bit tricky maybe.
Okay, just rest. Or if you want to discuss among 2 or 3 people, just you can discuss. Otherwise, keep it more like the free time. Half an hour tea break. Om Gati Gati Bodhisvaha